They put the reserved tent in the center like a crown. 12 gleaming place settings, water glasses already beating, napkins folded into those swans that always look like they have opinions. My mother sees me and waves me toward the long table, then hooks her finger and redirects. Bright smile, small pivot. "We grabbed you a spot at the bar," she says, like she's found me a prize. "Closer to the kitchen, you love to watch them work." They're code for, not at the table. The bar stool is 2 inches shorter than the chairs and 4 feet farther from the people. I can see everyone's profiles. Not faces. Profiles. My brother, Marcus, at the head like he owns the direction of the evening. Aunt Petty, Patrice officially, already telling the server she's allergic to olives but not to the kind they put on martinis. Dad's laughter too loud on the first drink, his hand carving the air with some story where he's the hero. 12 spaces, 12 stories, none of them mine. The bartender wipes a clean square of wood and sets a menu in front of me. "What can I get you?" His name tag says Wyatt in a font that wants to be your friend. "Water to start," I say. My throat is too tight for anything else. Back at the table, my mother moves place cards around like chess. I watch her flip 2 and set them back as if she rewrote fate. She once told me, seating a table is about balance. She meant rank. The thing about bars is they are honest. People come for refills, for air, for the quick small talk that doesn't leave crumbs. The bar knows who gets the check. It knows who doesn't. "Big party?" Wyatt asks. "Family," I say. It lands like both explanation and disclaimer. He grins sympathetically, as if he's seen 1,000 versions of my jaw. "We've got them on one check, card on file." I feel it then, the thud of something with my name on it settling where I can't ignore it. "Whose card?" He glances at the screen, then back at me with professional caution. "We've got an A. Rivera on file." That's me. The last time the restaurant saw my card, it was for Aunt Petty's fake surprise 60th, when the manager's reader couldn't find the signal, and my mother said, "Just put Rena's down, she gets the points." They're code for, "We get the benefits, she takes the bill." I breathe. The air smells like butter and lemon and the lie of generosity. I pull my wallet and slide my card out just enough to feel its edge. Mom leans toward me across the aisle, her bracelets chiming. "Order a cocktail, sweetheart," she calls. "Put it with ours." She looks at Wyatt. "She's with us." Wyatt nods, and I hear the click as the check, and I are married in a system that doesn't care about consent. "Actually," I say, keeping my voice soft so it's heard as fact, not argument, "start a separate tab for me." Wyatt hesitates because he is kind, and because he has learned families prefer illusions to itemizations. I can, but for big parties. "Separate," I repeat. "Please." He splits it with a keystroke. The sound is small and decisive. He sets a glass of water on a square napkin and slides it toward me like he's handing me a tool. At the table, Aunt Petty raises her phone and calls for a family photo. They scoot chairs, they huddle. No one looks toward the bar to see if I'm in frame. My brother lifts his glass. He looks like every school picture from 2nd grade to senior year, slightly off-center, certain he belongs there. "This is nice," Mom says when I come close enough to smell the perfume she saves for restaurant lighting. 12 seats, family only. The napkins are folded like swans, but they look like fences. "Where do you want me?" I ask. She gestures to my bar stool. "You're close. You can see everything. They're code for, we can see you watching." That's enough. Wyatt places a menu in front of me. I don't read it. I'm cataloging other menus, other nights. Mom's girls' lunch, where I stayed home to fix her laptop so she wouldn't ruin the vibe asking the restaurant for the Wi-Fi. Marcus's finance bro promotions where I sat with coats because The hostess says they only have room for 6. I run my fingertip along the menu's edge until the paper no longer feels like it could cut. The server at the table pours wine without asking who's driving. I watch a tide of Pinot fill 12 glasses like a choreographed apology. Mine stays a ring of condensation around water. Dinner starts. Marcus tells a story about winning a client who never knew how close he came to losing. Dad corrects the details to make them more about him. Mom beams like this is how you keep sons alive. Aunt Petty pronounces the scallops brave. The waiter keeps glancing at me, as if the wrongness of the geometry should be something he can fix. It's a long table. It's a short story. Every family repeats the same 3 acts and calls them traditions. Wyatt returns. Ready to order? Fries, I say, and the steak salad. There's a petty streak in me that wants to order the tomahawk and expense it to blood. I order what I want instead. Choosing what I want feels like dissidence. The first hour passes in the little humiliations you don't notice until they add up like interest. Mom tink-tinks her spoon against a glass. A toast, she sings, to family. To family. The table echoes. At the bar, I raise my water ritualistically, not because I feel it, but because I want to mark the moment I don't. I sip. I swallow. When the entrees land, the manager arrives, leather folio tucked under his arm like something important. He's the kind of man who calls customers by their first names to make the system feel friendly. Miss Rivera, he says, and places the folio next to my water, as if it were obvious this paper belonged to me. Just a reminder that the card on file will be charged at the end. Would you like a copy of the itemization now or later? He says it with kindness. The machine bristles with certainty. Every assumption in the room points to me like a reflex. I open the folio. It's blank yet heavy. The gravity of an invoice you can't see yet. I didn't put that card on file, I say, and the shape of my mouth around didn't feels like a seam I'm finally opening. The manager blinks. He looks at the table, then back to me. Ah, of course. It was added last time, with permission to keep on file. He smiles in the way people smile when they want you to choose being polite over being right. It simplifies future events. Simplifies. They're code for silences. Mom materializes as if the sound of the folio called her. We're good, she tells him. Charge Rena's at the end. We'll settle between us. She pats my wrist like she's leaving a receipt there. I slide the folio back across the bar. Remove my card from your system. The manager's smile thins. We're not able to... You are, I say, gentle as a seam ripper sliding under thread. Tokens can be severed. You will remove my card and print an itemized bill for the table. They can decide how to split it. I keep my tone so even it sounds like a courtesy call. Being right is easier in monotone. He glances at my mother because men like him always do. Mom keeps smiling but taps one nail against the wood in a tiny Morse code. Don't embarrass me. I look at Wyatt. Can you get your supervisor? I am the supervisor, the manager says. Great, I say. Then you know how to remove a card when consent is revoked. And you know how to print itemized checks. I turn the folio back to him like a mirror. For a second, I think he's going to say no. Then something in him folds where it's meant to. Of course, he says. Give me a moment. He leaves, and the air around the bar shifts a degree. Mom leans in too close, perfume climbing into my eyes. Why are you making this so hard? I'm making it simple, I say. You invited me to watch. I'm watching. She laughs, a small brittle intake. For heaven's sake, it's a dinner. Exactly, I say, and pick up my fork. Wyatt sets the fries down. They smell like salt and heat and something that remembers fairness. I eat 1, 2, 5. The sugars hit my blood like the first true statement of the evening. I hear my father's voice. We're a team. They're code for, you carry. I text Sammy. Emergency. Restaurant. Family. Bar stool. Card on file. Check coming my way. Sammy, come to the studio after. I'll leave the light on. Let me help you hem the evening to your size. Sammy is a tailor. When she speaks, seams answer. The manager returns with the itemized bill and a small machine that can amputate cards. You're removed from our system, he says. I nod. He glances at the long table, where my mother is already whispering to Aunt Petty about manners. He takes the check to them. I watch heads bend, lips purse. I watch Marcus say something that looks like seriously. He looks toward me, then away. Wyatt places my own check on the bar. Fries, steak salad, one water that costs nothing and everything. I lay my card down and say, I'll leave after I sign. And my chest opens like a seam pressed flat. I stand. I don't make a speech. I don't hand anyone a lesson. I leave before dessert because I promised myself I would, and because some sweets are bait. At the door, I pause for the ritual goodbye. Mom doesn't look up. Dad pretends to be caught in a big laugh so he can ignore. Aunt Petty tilts her head like a bird and says, Are you sure you won't stay? Her earrings flash when she says sure so I can see that she doesn't mean it. I'm sure, I say. On the sidewalk, air that hasn't been breathed by anyone I share blood with fills my lungs. My keys are heavy and honest in my hand. Across the street, the tailor shop's sign glows, SAMI plus STITCH in warm white letters. I exhale in its direction, a person recognizing her exit. My phone buzzes. Family chat. Rena, where are you going? We put you at the bar because the table only seats 12. You know how your brother is about his clients. We'll settle later. Don't be sensitive. The little gray dots blink like a siren. I mute it. I want quiet enough to hear thread pull. Sammy's studio smells like steam and chalk and the soft sweetness of wool. The kind of air that makes your jaw remember it can unclench. The front room is all window light and mannequins pinned into possibilities. The back is where the work lives. Machines with old-world names. An iron heavy enough to make anything obey. A wooden table wide as a bed where garments lie down and become truer versions of themselves. She's at the table with a spool of silk thread between her teeth, hair wrapped in a scarf that used to be a dress. Well? She asks, not looking up, because good friends don't perform curiosity. How ugly? Reserved for family, I say, and let the story unspool. Bar stool. Card on file. The folio finding me like dogged mail. The manager. The separation swiped into existence. I talk like I'm hand-stitching, small even passes, not tugging too hard lest the fabric pucker. Sammy listens with her hands. She sets a row of tailor's tacks on a hem and says, Families love a bias cut. They think it's flattering. It's just fabric draped in a way that hides their choices. I laugh, this short surprise sound that tastes like oxygen. They kept telling me I could see everything from the bar. They like you adjacent to your own life, she says. She puts a pair of golden shears in my palm. They are heavy, the weight that says tool, not toy. Cut this line, she says, and don't hesitate. Hesitation chews the fabric. The fabric is cotton muslin, the honest stuff you use to test a pattern. I cut. The blades sing the clean sound I've loved since I was 9, and Grandpa let me cut paper patterns from the Simplicity envelope because he said steady hands make straight lines. Sammy pushes a pad of butcher paper toward me. We're drafting, she says. For what? Boundaries, she says simply, and tears off a sheet. The paper curls at the edge like it wants to be something already. List your rules. Keep them short enough to baste. I write, separate check, no card on file. No, we'll settle later. No money talk over text. If the table says family and I'm not seated, I leave. Sammy nods. Add one about arrival and departure. I add. I pick my time. I leave before dessert if my jaw starts to buzz. If, she says, and we both snort. She slides a scrap of linen my way, a cuff she unpicked from a jacket that wasn't made with me in mind. Practice, she says, and points to a seam that wobbles like an anxious thought. I thread a needle. A line of hand stitches looks like small certainty. While I sew, she opens her laptop and pulls up my bank app like a surgeon peeling back skin. Tokenization, she mutters. Removal. Confirmations. Put fraud alerts to call, not text, and add a PIN for card-on-file authorizations. I didn't know you could do that. You can ask for anything, she says. It's whether people say yes. We print and label a binder because I am the kind of person who trusts tabs, receipts, scripts, proof of me, family treaty. I slide the itemized draft into receipts, add a photo of the reserved tent, snapped discreetly while Mom smiled for Aunt Petty's Instagram, into proof. The grain of the paper catches the light like fabric with a good hand. I made you something, Sammy says, rummaging on a shelf. She returns with a sampler she stitched in silk on canvas. Not your payer, bordered by a calm row of herringbone and cross-stitch. The letters are large enough to read from across a room. She presses it into my hands with a face that says, we both know you need this symptom spelled. I prop it against the wall behind the iron where it can watch me while I press seams open. The sampler looks like a sermon and a friend. At 9:12 p.m., my phone lights with Mom. I let it go to voicemail. The transcript arrives as a paragraph of familiar choreography. You embarrassed me. It's just dinner. Your brother entertains clients. Have some empathy. We'll pay you back. We always do. Don't make me the villain. Show some grace. A soliloquy of we and you where I never shows up with responsibility. I record my own voicemail greeting then and there. A message to my nervous system. Hi, you've reached Rena. If this is about money, please email. I don't discuss finances over the phone. If this is about love, try again tomorrow after 2. I hit save and feel my heart knock twice to mark the new baseline. We work until the city's neon changes color. I hem a skirt for a client who is a nurse and needs the length right so she stops tripping when she runs. Sammy fits a tuxedo jacket for a teacher getting married in her backyard under a maple that turns red like an apology. We listen to a playlist of songs whose only job is to stay out of the way. What's your craft rule for tonight? She asks, the way she always asks at the end of sessions like this. Measure people by their fit, not their fabric, I say. And never cut on the bias because someone else likes the drape. She smirks. Write it down. I do, in small neat caps on a scrap of pattern paper, and slide it into proof of me. Back in my apartment, I hang the sampler over my kitchen table like a law. I put the binder on the counter where I can touch it when my chest goes electric. I put my card back in my wallet like a citizen returned to its country. I sleep like a person whose jaw remembered it could let go. 2 weeks later, I'm promoted to production lead at the costume shop where my job is to make big concepts fit actual bodies. The new title arrives without a parade. Just a raised eyebrow from my boss, May, and a question I'm learning to let in. Do you want it? I say yes before my guilt can raise its hand. My days become measurements and fittings and the complicated math of movement. Dancers stand on crates while I chalk hems. Actors suck their stomachs in like they can armor themselves with air. I tell them not to. The garment must fit you, not your apology. I teach an intern to stay-stitch curves so necklines don't gape with time. I keep a seam ripper tucked behind my left ear, little knife disguised as a pencil. On Saturdays, I host Mend plus Tea at Sammy plus Stitch. a community drop-in where we fix buttons and reattach belt loops and stitch old wounds quietly. People bring us clothes and their insides. A banker confesses she's never sewn a button in 32 years and leaves victorious. A single dad learns to hem his daughter's slacks and sends us a photo Monday morning of her smiling next to a striped backpack. An elderly man brings a World War II coat that still smells like the cedar chest and asks me to please repair a small tear so it stops becoming a large one. I do. He cries like water finding a new path. Mending is just sanctioned love. Dr. Shu's office smells like nothing and relief. She is the kind of therapist who asks for percentages, so you have to pick a number. How much of you wants to keep the peace? How much wants to keep yourself? The graph shifts weekly, but the line moves in the right direction. We draft scripts like patterns and try them on. I'm not available to discuss finances. I'll come for an hour. No, that doesn't work for me. We practice in her office where nobody pretends a firmer tone is violence. We practice until no fits my mouth without chafing. At work, I stop volunteering to clean the green room because no one else will. I put those 20 minutes into hand finishing a seam that will never be noticed, but will never fray. May sees it. Your stitches look like a person who sleeps, she says, which might be the best review I've ever gotten. The family thread goes quiet for 4 days, then erupts with a paper-thin apology that reads like it came off a press. Let's agree to disagree. We love you. Family is messy. Their code for, we're not changing, but we want you back. I reply with a single sentence and the strength of the sampler behind me. I'll attend events where I'm seated like family and build like a guest. No one responds. My jaw does its old dance. I put my palms flat on the table and press, like ironing out fabric that's learned a bad habit. There's that sound steam makes when it lets go. May asks me to head up fittings for the City Ballet Gala. 12 principal dancers, 30 core, one director who believes Velcro is couture. The number 12 makes me smile with a kind of cosmic pettiness. I make a chart. I assign times. I put my name at the top of the schedule like I belong in the picture. At the end of the day, I take home the sampler, not your payer, and stitch a second line beneath it. Not your placeholder. The letters are straighter than they used to be. My hand has learned its own handwriting. Lila calls on a Tuesday night, and I let it ring once before I answer because I want to be generous on purpose. Can we talk? She asks. Not about money. Okay. It was wrong, she says, as if she found the sentence between couch cushions. The way that dinner played out. The way so many of our dinners played out. The apology is pants that almost fit. I do a mental pin and tuck. Thank you, I say. Mom wants to host again for Dad's retirement, she says. She promises it will be different. Promises are garments that rip if you pull too hard. I'll come, I say. If there's a seat with my name on it, and if there's a pay here spot for anyone not named me. Lila exhales. I'll make it happen. How? I'll reserve the table, she says, and pay the deposit. And tell the waiter who's in charge. That's a start, I say. It is. The seam doesn't have to be perfect to be secure. I set 3 conditions by text, so no one can pretend to forget. Mom thumbs ups it. Dad writes nothing. Marcus sends a GIF of a family from a sitcom where the laugh track tells you when to breathe. I put my phone face down and stitch the sampler until the letters are finished. I plan my entrance and exit like a load-in. Arrive at 6:05, leave at 7 if seated poorly, 8 if seated well. Bring my binder in my tote, not because I want to use it, but because tools work even when you never unsheath them. The day of Dad's retirement, I wear a simple black dress with a navy jacket I made from a pattern that pretended it was easy. It wasn't. The collar took 3 tries. It lies flat now because I pressed it into honesty. I put the seam ripper in my purse like a talisman. I put my not your payer sampler in my head. At the restaurant, the reserved tent sits in the center like a survivor from last time. But it's flanked by my name on a card where the "for family" used to be. Rena written in Lila's messy, earnest hand. There's a small "pay here" sign on a side table with a square reader, and Vanessa, our accountant cousin, wearing the expression of a woman who knows which way money flows and prefers to damn it memo line by memo line. She lifts her chin at me. Respect. Sit, Lila says, and pulls out my chair. Not the bar stool. A chair at the table. 12 seats. 12 stories. I feel my shoulders drop like a hem released. Dad stands to toast. At the last minute, he looks at me and makes a space in the story where I fit. Rena taught me the difference between being generous and being vague. He doesn't look at Mom when he says it. He has learned where blame lives and where choice does. We clink. We eat. We don't perform. I leave at 8:02 because I promised myself an exit, and because promises to myself are the only ones that make me easier to love. Mom doesn't try to hold me by the sleeve. She hugs me with both arms and says, "Thank you for coming," and leaves off the even that used to turn gratitude into a test. On the way out, Vanessa waves me over like a bouncer who likes you. "We're squared," she says, tapping the reader. "No surprises. Your mom paid the deposit. Marcus paid his share with actual money instead of a story." I know. I'm impressed too. "And Dad?" "He tipped like a man trying to learn a new language." She grins. 50%, no note. I laugh. It comes from the belly this time. The final reckoning takes place somewhere I didn't expect. The library's glass-walled community room, where the carpet smells like kindergarten and the tables have been wiped clean so many times they shine. Dr. Shu suggested neutral ground for our last family session. "No couches where old roles sit," she said. "No head of the table that isn't earned." We sit in a loose square of chairs. Mom brings paper cups. Dad brings the good pen he uses for checks. Marcus brings his mouth. For once, not first. "Let's make a ledger, Doctor," Shu suggests. "Not of money. Of roles. Who holds what? Who wants to keep what? Who is done?" I pull the binder from my tote and set it on the table because I'm done pretending I don't need a thing to hold on to. I open to Family Treaty where Sammy and I stitch the clauses with words. No card on file, no surprise bills, no money talk over text. Separate checks unless explicitly agreed otherwise. If family only includes me, seat me. If not, say it out loud so I can leave without hating you. Dr. Shu nods at it like it's a decent first draft of a constitution. Mom looks at the treaty like it might bite. "I didn't know we needed documents," she says, choking on the last word. "You needed them because you didn't have them," I say, gentle seam ripper tone. Everyone knew the rules, except me. I'm done being the fine print on your expectations. Dad clears his throat. He stops. Tries again. "I didn't know how much we leaned on you until you moved." "I didn't move," I say. I sat down in my own seat. There's a quiet I don't rush to fill. In that quiet, a dozen small lies decide not to show up. Marcus stares at his hands like he's never seen them unbusy. "I put you at the bar," he says to me, eyes still down. "Because my client was there and I thought..." He stops. "I thought I needed his respect more than I needed yours." It's the cleanest ugly we've spoken in this lineage. "Thank you for saying it," I reply. "Don't do it again." "I won't," he says. He looks up. I'm trying to learn how to be a person who doesn't require a woman to do my receipts. "Start with actual receipts," Vanessa says from the back, because of course she came, and of course she sat where she can see everything. We go line by line like a fitting. Dr. Shu pins where the garment puckers. We let out seams where movement wants to be. We take in where it flaps. No more later. If you can't afford the restaurant, choose another. If Rena says no, accept it like weather. If anyone forgets, Vanessa brings the square. We laugh, not because it's funny, but because the alternative is dust. At the end, Dr. Shu asks her percentage question. How much of you wants to keep the peace? Mom, 50. Dad, 40. Marcus, 20. Me, 10. How much wants to keep yourself? Mom, 50. Dad, 60. Marcus, 80. 90. Progress is a graph with a heartbeat. We sign the treaty, not because the ink has magic, but because our hands remember doing the right thing. Mom uses Dad's good check pen and doesn't shake. Vanessa witnesses, official by nature if not by law. You're all welcome at my table on Sunday, Mom says, almost shy. No reserved signs. Just names. I'll be there, I say. For 2 hours. Her eyes crinkle, real. We'll make them good. The first Sunday dinner of the new terms is pasta-heavy and story-light. The table has place cards with names, no subtext. My card stays in my wallet. The pay here sign sits by the bread without pride or shame. Dad tells a story about a job he didn't get and doesn't make it into a parable about persistence. He lets it be about luck. Mom asks about my work without adding, "Have you met anyone?" Marcus asks how to hand wash sweaters. I tell him the truth. You don't. You soak and press out the water and don't wring and be gentle with yourself in the process. He writes it down like I handed him a tool. I leave before dessert because I'm still me. On the way out, Mom presses a small wrapped package into my palm. Inside is an old linen-reserved tent from a restaurant we used to go to when Grandpa was alive, and money was loose because grief felt like a tab. She's crossed out reserved in neat block letters and written welcome under it. It's a little on the nose. It works anyway. You're learning, I tell her. So are you, she says. 3 months later, I host soup plus seams in my apartment for the people who sat at bars they were told were close enough. We mend and sip and pass the sampler around like a relic. Not your payer. Not your placeholder. Someone jokes we should start a church. We settle for a group text that says, bring yourself, and never ever says bring ice or bring your card. Sammy curls up on my sofa after the last guest leaves, feet tucked under. Tea balancing on a coaster she calls a cup rug because she likes to rename things to make them friendlier. What do you want to do with the old sign? She asks, nodding toward the reserved tent Mom rewrote into welcome. Frame it, I say. Hang it above my table. Not as a threat, as a memory. And the sampler? It stays, I say, eyes on the herringbone border, the letters that learn to stand up. The day I think I don't need it is the day I need it most. I take out my seam ripper and turn it in my hands. The steel catches light like it's proud. I keep it sharp. I keep it close. That night, my phone buzzes with a group text photo from Vanessa, a spreadsheet titled Family Expenses. Transparent AF and a caption. We are who we practice. I laugh into the quiet room, and the sound doesn't bounce back empty the way it used to. Before bed, I write one more line in my Proof of Me tab, on cream paper with a soft tooth that takes ink kindly. I sat at the table I set. I paid my part. Nothing more. Nothing less. I wash the dishes. I dry the good knife. I lay out fabric for a jacket I'll cut in the morning. I turn off the lights. I lock the door behind me as I walk to bed, and the lock sounds like a click I've been practicing for years. The sound of a life that fits, seems flat, allowance where movement needs it. No more bar stools pretending to be chairs. No more checks pretending to be love. When the waiter hands someone a folio again in this lifetime, it won't be because my name lives in their system. It will be because the person holding it agreed. And if I ever see reserved again in the center of a table where I'm not seated, I won't argue the sign. I'll read it. I'll leave. I'll go where my name is written by my hand. Because that's the only bill I'll pay without question now. The one I wrote for a seat I chose, at a table I set, in a room where the only thing for family means is I belong here too.